Welcome to Layman's AI by Orca AI Studios. This is a limited series on AI employees and why Claude Code finally made them real.
Okay, let's just dive right into this. For years, AI in our workflow has kind of felt like a really smart autocomplete, you know? It would suggest the next word, maybe the next line of code. It was helpful, for sure, but you were still the one flying the plane, doing all the real work. But somewhere along the line, we crossed a pretty major threshold. We've gone from just getting suggestions to actually delegating entire tasks. The AI isn't just a helpful co-pilot anymore, it can actually take the controls. And that changes everything about how we work. So the big question is, what was the big leap that took us from a passive assistant to a truly active partner? The answer is a pretty fundamental shift in the whole system, moving away from building assistants and toward building true AI agents. And this quote just nails it. Think about it. You don't ask a junior developer for a suggestion on how to write some code. No, you ask them to go write the code. It's a total shift in responsibility from you to the tool.
When you boil it all down, the change is really this simple. An assistant is like a manual. It tells you how to do something. An agent, on the other hand, is an employee. It actually does it for you. And that distinction, that simple difference, is everything.
Let's make this real. Imagine you have a coding task, like adding rate limiting to your project to stop it from getting spammed. With an older assistant tool, it's helpful. Yeah, it suggests chunks of code while you're typing. But you're still doing the heavy lifting. You have to write all the glue code, you have to update all the different files, and then you have to write the tests to make sure you didn't break anything.
Okay, so then we got more advanced agent-like tools, and these were a big step up. You could describe the task, and it would figure out what changes to make across the whole project. But you still had to be the micromanager. You had to go through file by file and manually approve or reject every single little change it wanted to make. But with a true code executing agent, the entire dynamic just flips on its head. You give it one single high-level command, and then it takes over. It reads your code to understand the context, writes the new code, updates every file that needs it, runs tests to check its own work, and if the tests fail, it actually tries to fix its own bugs. Your job shifts from being the person doing the work to being the person who does the final review. That's real delegation. So how is any of this even possible? Well, it's not magic. It's a new kind of system architecture that's built specifically for this kind of work, and it's called the agentic loop. This is the engine that lets the AI work on its own. And hey, if this helps you finally get what's going on, subscribe. We try to explain AI without all the hype.
This loop is what makes the agent autonomous. It's not just following a simple script from top to bottom. It's gathering information, trying something out, and then, this is the key part, checking its own work. It's a cycle it can repeat over and over and over until the job is actually done. That ability to self-correct, that's what's so powerful and so new.
So the big technical change that made this possible was a shift from something called prompt chaining to direct code execution. The old way, prompt chaining, was like the AI had to run back to its boss, the main model, after every single tiny step to ask for permission. It was slow, clunky, and expensive. The new way, code execution, is totally different. It's like the model writes a little mini program for itself and says, go run this, do all the steps, and just come back and tell me the final result. It's a move from micromanagement to trust.
This level of autonomy is incredibly powerful, but as you can probably guess, it is not free. So what does it really cost to have an AI employee like this on your team?
Well, for individual users, the cost is actually pretty straightforward. You've got subscription plans that start at a professional level and scale all the way up for those elite users and coders who need a ton of power.
But, and this is a big but, if you're using the API to build your own applications, the pricing model is totally different. You pay for what you use. And because these agents do so much work behind the scenes, the costs can sneak up on you fast. I mean, look at this. One developer was just experimenting and got hit with a monthly API bill for over $600.
And that is not a one-off thing. Here's another example. A researcher just testing out different agents burned through $80 in a single day. When the AI is just running on its own in the background, it's constantly using up resources. And that has a very real and sometimes pretty shocking price tag.
So you see those numbers and you have to ask, is it even worth it? Well, for a lot of professionals, it comes down to a really simple calculation of their return on investment. This engineer puts it perfectly. The tool pays for itself if it saves just 5 hours of their time each month. And in reality, they estimate it's saving them way more than that. It is absolutely crucial to understand, though, that these systems are not perfect. They're powerful, yes, but they're also fragile, and because they're so new, they break in completely new and unexpected ways. We're talking software bugs that can literally delete uncommitted work, infrastructure outages that can cause it to spit out corrupted garbage, and even some really strange new behavioral flaws. And one of the most concerning of these flaws is something researchers are calling conversational abandonment. This is when the model is in the middle of a really hard problem, it senses that it's failing, and instead of trying another approach, it just gives up. Essentially just tells you, I can't help you, figure it out yourself. And that could be a massive problem if you're relying on it for something high stakes.
So given the power, the cost, and the risks, how are elite developers actually using these tools right now? Well, they're not just throwing everything out and replacing it with one agent. Instead, they're building a smarter workflow. They use a standard tool for simple autocomplete, an AI-native editor for most of their day-to-day work, and then they bring out the big guns, the powerful agent, for the really complex, messy tasks. It's all about using the right tool for the right job.
This whole multi-tool strategy is really a sign that we're in a new era. For decades, the biggest bottleneck in getting things done was just the slow, manual process of execution. But that's not the bottleneck anymore. Now the bottleneck is shifting to delegation. How clearly and effectively can you define what you want done? The most important question is no longer just how we build things, but what we choose to build now that we can.